They fired me for not being a culture fit. I didn't cry, didn't yell, didn't fight back right then. I just walked out of that conference room, carrying something those executives didn't realize they'd just handed me the $27 million heart of their company. They thought they were saving $200,000 a year. They had no idea what that savings would actually cost them. My name is Natalie Harper, and for 15 years, I was the soul of Alluvia Systems. Not the face that was reserved for the rotating cast of CEOs who came and went like seasonal allergies. Not the brain that title belonged to whichever MIT grad they'd poached most recently. I was something far more valuable, the person who remembered that Jim at Vertex Solutions had twin daughters starting college, that Sarah at Pinnacle Corp dealt with migraines and preferred morning meetings, that the procurement team at Meridian Tech always ordered extra sandwiches for their security staff during late implementations. The email came at 8:47 a.m. on a Tuesday. Urgent meeting. Conference room A, 9:15 a.m. No subject line beyond that, no explanation, just Deborah from HR's signature and a CC to someone whose email domain I didn't recognize. Legal counsel. I'd learn later. I should have known something was wrong when I walked in, and there was no chair for me. 3 people sat behind the conference table like a tribunal: Deborah, the lawyer, and Marcus Chen, our CFO who joined 8 months ago from some hedge fund. They didn't offer me a seat. They didn't offer me water. They didn't even offer me the courtesy of eye contact. "Natalie," Deborah began, sliding a manila envelope across the table. Her French manicure caught the light. "We've made the difficult decision to eliminate your position. 15 years, 52 million in retained revenue, countless saved accounts, nurtured relationships, crises averted with a phone call and a personal touch. All of it condensed into a manila envelope and a woman who couldn't meet my eyes." "I don't understand," I said, though I was beginning to. Marcus had been conducting efficiency audits since his arrival. Young hotshots from his previous firm had been appearing in our halls, measuring everything that couldn't be measured, putting numbers on relationships, trying to automate trust. "The company is moving in a new direction," Deborah continued, reading from a script as obvious as her discomfort. "Your role, your approach, it's not aligned with our evolving culture." My approach? I kept my voice steady, professional. The same voice I'd used to talk Harbinger Industries out of a breach of contract lawsuit, to convince Stellar Dynamics to triple their subscription after a botched update nearly destroyed their inventory system. Marcus finally looked at me, 28 years old, MBA from Wharton, probably thought relationships were something you tracked in Salesforce. "Let's be honest, Natalie, you're a culture fit issue. The company needs fresh perspectives, modern approaches. Your methods are..." He paused, searching for a word that wouldn't create legal liability. "Outdated." I almost laughed. Outdated. Like knowing that Tom Brennan at Apex Solutions had lost his wife to cancer last year and always appreciated when I asked about his grief support group. Like remembering that the entire team at Quantum Logistics was vegetarian and sending plant-based options for working lunches. Like understanding that business wasn't just about numbers, but about the humans behind them. "There's a severance package," the lawyer spoke for the first time. "Quite generous, 3 months' pay, continuation of benefits through year-end. All we need is your signature on some standard documentation." I picked up the envelope, heavier than I expected. Inside, along with the termination letter and legal forms, there was a thick document labeled Exhibit C, Client Relationship Documentation. "What's this?" I asked. "Just supporting documentation," Deborah said quickly, too quickly. "For the transition, we'll need you to brief your replacement, of course." I flipped through it, my breath caught. It was my personal database, every client, every contact, every carefully cultivated detail I'd gathered over 15 years. Birthday reminders, coffee preferences, kids' names, health concerns, communication styles, deal breakers, trust builders. They'd printed it all out, probably planning to hand it to whatever fresh-faced rookie they'd already hired to replace me at half my salary. My name was at the top of every page. Compiled by Natalie Harper. Maintained by Natalie Harper. Last updated by Natalie Harper. "Of course," I said, closing the envelope. "I'll review everything at home." "The severance is contingent on signing within 48 hours, the lawyer added. "And naturally, all company materials remain proprietary." Naturally, I agreed. Marcus was already checking his phone. In his mind, I was already gone. Just another line item cleaned up, another inefficiency eliminated. He'd probably brag about the cost savings at the next board meeting, $200,000 in salary and benefits, removed with a 15-minute conversation. As I stood to leave, still no chair offered. Even now, I heard him mutter to Deborah, "Think she'll start a podcast or something, they always do." I walked out of that room with my spine straight and my head high, carrying the envelope like it weighed nothing. They thought they'd fired me. They thought they'd won. They had no idea what they'd just done. I made it to my car before my hands started shaking. The parking garage was empty at 9:30 a.m. Everyone else was inside, living their Tuesday, secure in their positions and their futures. I sat in my BMW, the one I'd bought after landing the Harbinger Industries renewal, and opened the envelope again. The termination letter was standard corporate cruelty, all passive voice and hollow regret. The severance agreement was 40 pages of legal threats dressed up as legalese. But Exhibit C, that was something else entirely. 137 pages. Single-spaced, every major client account I'd managed, nurtured, saved, or grown in my decade and a half at Alluvia. But it wasn't just contact information or contract details. This was my real work, the invisible architecture I'd built beneath Alluvia's success. Page 23. Harbinger Industries. Primary contact. William Chen. CTO. Prefers Billy. Lost daughter to leukemia in 2019. Donates to St. Jude's every year. Never schedule meetings on March 15th daughter's birthday. Drinks Diet Coke obsessively but trying to quit. Responds better to data visualizations than spreadsheets. Secret weakness. Terrified of looking technically behind. Stroke his ego about innovation and he'll sign anything. Page 47. Meridian Tech. Jennifer Martinez. VP Procurement. Promoted from coordinator in 2018, I recommended her to their CEO at a conference. Going through divorce, custody battle for twin boys, exhausted but won't admit it, always schedule for Tuesday, Thursday when she has the kids, brings stress ball to every meeting. Renewal trick. Send dinner delivery to her house during late-night contract reviews. She'll remember who actually cares. Page 89. Quantum Logistics. Full-team vegetarian CEO's daughter went vegan. Influenced whole company culture. Never suggest steakhouses. Keep kind bars in meeting rooms. They measure everything but make decisions on gut feelings. Drop personal anecdotes in presentations. Biggest fear. Being seen as just another trucking company. Make them feel innovative and they're yours. Every annotation, every insight, every secret to keeping these clients not just satisfied, but loyal, it was all there, in my handwriting, with my name on it. Printed out and handed to me in an official termination packet by the company's own HR department. They'd meant it as documentation for my replacement, some kind of transition manual, probably. Marcus UN had likely ordered it himself, thinking he was being efficient. Get everything she knows on paper before we let her go. He didn't understand, none of them understood that what I knew couldn't be transferred like a software manual. These weren't just notes, they were relationships. Trust built over years. Earned through consistency, maintained through genuine care. But in their efficiency, they'd made a critical error. This wasn't company property developed on company time. This was my personal relationship database, built from my own observations, maintained on my own initiative, updated often from my personal phone calls and lunch meetings. I'd created it because I cared about these people as humans, not just contracts. And they'd just given it to me, in writing, with their own legal department stamp on the cover page. I pulled out my personal phone and took photos of every page. Then I called my own lawyer, Patricia Stern, who'd helped with my divorce 5 years ago. Patricia, it's Natalie Harper. I need you to look at something urgent. Yes, employment-related. No, I won't sign anything until you review it. While waiting for her callback, I sat in that parking garage and really read through Exhibit C. 52 clients. 27 million in annual recurring revenue. Contracts ranging from 3 months to 3 years. Some coming up for renewal. Some recently renewed. All of them tied to me by threads Alluvia didn't even know existed. There was Mitchell at Apex Solutions, whose son I'd helped get an internship. The team at Pinnacle Corp who sent me Christmas cards at my home address. David at Sterling Systems, who'd cried in my office after his brother's overdose, trusting me with his family's shame because I'd shared my own struggles with my sister's addiction. These weren't just business relationships, they were human connections that happened to generate revenue, and Alluvia had just handed me a detailed map of every single one, certified and stamped as authentic by their own legal department. My phone buzzed. Patricia. "Don't sign anything," she said immediately. "That document they gave you, Exhibit C, that's a gift. No, better than a gift. That's evidence. They've essentially admitted in writing that these relationships belong to you personally. Keep the originals, make multiple copies, and Natalie, start thinking about your next move." I looked at the Alluvia system sign visible through the parking garage entrance. 15 years I'd walked under that sign. 15 years I'd built something I thought mattered. "Oh, I'm already thinking," I told her. "Trust me, I'm thinking very clearly." I started my car and drove out of that garage for the last time, carrying with me something more valuable than any severance package. They thought they'd documented my work for my replacement. Instead, they'd authenticated my life's work and handed it back to me, tied up with a legal bow. Marcus Yuen thought he'd saved the company $200,000. He had no idea what that savings was about to cost. The call came at 2:15 p.m. the same day. I was sitting in my home office, still in my professional clothes, when Dana Caldwell's name lit up my personal cell phone. Dana, former VP of Operations at Stellar Dynamics, one of my favorite clients before she'd moved to a new company 6 months ago. "Natalie, I just heard." Her voice was tight with controlled anger. "Those idiots at Alluvia actually fired you." News travels fast in our industry. The Charlotte tech scene was big enough to feel important, but small enough that everyone knew everyone. I'd probably been the subject of at least 3 lunch conversations already. "Cost-cutting measure," I said, keeping my voice neutral. I wasn't a culture fit anymore. Dana's laugh was sharp enough to cut glass. "Culture fit. You were their culture. Every decent thing about that company walked out the door with you." A pause. "What are you doing for dinner tonight?" "Updating my resume. Probably." "Wrong answer. Meet me at Barcelona Wine Bar at 6:30. And Natalie, wear something that makes you feel powerful. This isn't a sympathy dinner." She hung up before I could respond. Classic Dana, decisive, direct, no patience for self-pity. It's why I'd loved working with her account, why we'd stayed in touch even after she left Stellar for her new role. I spent the afternoon reviewing my finances. The severance would help, but I had a mortgage, a car payment, life. I needed a next move, and I needed it soon. But first, I needed to know what Dana wanted. Barcelona Wine Bar sat in the renovated district downtown, all exposed brick and Edison bulbs, the kind of place where deals were made over small plates and big wines. Dana was already there when I arrived, sitting at a corner table with 2 glasses of Rioja waiting. She looked exactly like what she was, a technology executive on the rise. Tailored blazer, subtle jewelry, the kind of confidence that came from knowing your worth and getting it. She stood when she saw me, pulled me into a hug that lasted longer than professional courtesy required. "You look good," she said, stepping back. "Unemployed suits you." "It's been 8 hours. Ask me again in a month." "I won't need to." She gestured for me to sit. "How much do you know about Horizon Strategies?" I knew them. Of course, everyone in our space did. They'd started as a boutique consultancy 5 years ago and had grown into Alluvia's most serious regional competitor. Younger, hungrier, with a reputation for poaching talent and clients with equal enthusiasm. "I know you're their new VP of Strategic Accounts," I said. "Congratulations. By the way, I meant to send a note." "You sent flowers to my office and a bottle of champagne to my house," Dana corrected. "Because you actually pay attention to people, which is exactly why I'm here." She leaned forward, wine forgotten. "Horizon wants to make a serious play for the enterprise market. We have the technology, we have the funding, but we don't have the relationships. We don't have someone who knows that Tom Brennan's wife died last year, or that the quantum logistics team won't eat meat, or that Jennifer Martinez at Meridian is going through a divorce." My breath caught. "How do you know about your client relationships, Natalie? Everyone knows. It's the worst-kept secret in Charlotte Tech. Aluvia's client retention wasn't because of their product, it was because of you. The waiter appeared with tapas patatas bravas, gambas al ajillo, jamón ibérico. Dana had ordered all my favorites without asking. Another person who paid attention. "We want you," she said simply. "Director of Client Partnerships. You'd build your own team, implement your own systems, work with clients who actually deserve you. Salary starts at $220, but that's negotiable. Equity participation after year 1. And Natalie?" She smiled. "We actually know what culture fit means." "I have a non-compete," I said automatically, "which is unenforceable in North Carolina for client relationship roles. I had our legal team check. You can't actively solicit Aluvia's clients for 90 days, but you can absolutely work in the same industry. And if clients choose to leave Alluvia of their own accord," she shrugged. "Market forces." I thought about Marcus UN, probably celebrating his cost-cutting victory, about Deborah from HR, who couldn't meet my eyes, about 15 years of building something real, only to be told it didn't align with their evolving culture. When would I start? "Monday. If you're ready, we'll want you to meet the team, get oriented, understand our systems. Take your time building your approach. We're not Alluvia. We understand that relationships aren't built overnight." And my relationships with existing clients. Dana's smile turned strategic. "Your personal relationships are yours. What you do with them after 90 days is your business. But I have a feeling that once word gets out where you've landed, some of those relationships might reach out to you first." She raised her glass, so ready to show Alluvia what culture really looks like. I thought about Exhibit C, sitting in my home safe with my lawyer's notes, about every client who'd become more than a contract, about the chance to build something new, something better, something mine. I raised my own glass to meet hers. "When do I sign?" The Rioja tasted like possibility, like revenge served at exactly the right temperature. Alluvia thought they'd ended my story. They had no idea they'd just written the first chapter of my comeback. My first day at Horizon Strategies felt like stepping into an alternate universe, where Alluvia's offices had been all gray cubicles and fluorescent despair. Horizon occupied a converted warehouse with exposed beams, living walls, and actual sunlight. People smiled in the hallways. The coffee was good. Small things, but they mattered. Dana introduced me to the team at the Monday morning all-hands. No PowerPoint, no corporate speak. Just, "This is Natalie Harper. She's going to help us build the kind of client relationships that actually matter. If you want to learn how business really works, watch what she does." I spent that first week observing, learning Horizon's systems, understanding their current client base, good companies, solid relationships, but nothing like the ecosystem I'd built at Alluvia. They had contracts. I'd had connections. At night, I worked on something else entirely. I'd bought a leather-bound journal from the stationery store downtown, the expensive kind, with paper that whispered when you turned the pages. On the cover, I'd written garden tools in gold ink. Anyone finding it would think I'd taken up landscaping. Inside was my real strategy. Each page held a client profile, reconstructed from memory and supplemented by Exhibit C. But this wasn't just contact information. This was analysis, battle planning. Harbinger Industries contract renewal in 4 months. Billy Chen still mourning his daughter. Still overcompensating by micromanaging vendors. Recent LinkedIn posts showed frustration with communication gaps. Translation. My replacement wasn't sending the weekly personal check-ins I'd maintained for 5 years. Meridian Tech. Jennifer Martinez's divorce would be final next month. She'd need stability, reliability, partners who understood that business didn't stop for personal crisis. Alluvia's new AI-powered customer success platform wouldn't know to send her dinner during late-night reviews. Quantum Logistics. They'd posted 3 jobs for positions that suggested internal expansion. Growing companies need flexible partners. Alluvia's standardized service tiers wouldn't adapt. They never did. I categorized each client into 3 groups. Ripe fruit, ready to fall with the slightest shake. These were the accounts where relationships mattered most, where 15 years of personal attention couldn't be replaced by a fresh MBA and a Salesforce login. Growing season needed time and careful tending, maybe happy enough for now, But foundations were cracking. These required patience, subtle positioning, waiting for the inevitable alluvia stumble. Deep roots would take significant effort to transplant, long contracts, multiple stakeholders, genuine satisfaction with services. These I marked for later, much later. But I didn't just plan client strategies. I studied alluvia itself. Marcus UN had cut more than just my position. The company directory, still accessible via Google's cached pages, showed 12% staff reduction in 6 months. Customer success, trimmed, account management, optimized, technical support, outsourced to a call center in Phoenix. He was cutting the very people who made relationships possible, replacing human connection with chatbots and automated workflows. Efficient, certainly, profitable, in the short term, fatal. Eventually, I tracked every change through press releases, LinkedIn updates, industry gossip. Alluvia was pivoting to a technology-first customer experience. They'd hired a chief innovation officer who blogged about disrupting traditional B2B relationship models. They were hosting webinars on scalable success moving beyond high-touch service. Each announcement was another gift. They were publicly abandoning everything I'd built, positioning themselves as the opposite of what their best clients actually wanted. 3 weeks into my time at Horizon, I created something new. Not a CRM entry or a sales strategy, but a simple spreadsheet titled Market Opportunities, Clean, Professional, Defensible. It listed 52 companies that might benefit from Horizon's services. Companies that valued partnership over automation. Companies that expected their vendors to remember birthdays and dietary restrictions and personal struggles. Companies that, coincidentally, matched Exhibit C exactly. I shared it with Dana over coffee in her office. She read it slowly, sipping her cortado, expression neutral. "This is impressive market research," she said finally. "Very thorough, very specific. I've been in this industry for 15 years. You learn things." "Indeed." She set down the document. "And these opportunities, when might we pursue them?" I consulted my phone calendar with theatrical precision. "My non-solicit expires in 67 days. Of course, if any of these companies reached out to us directly." "Of course." Dana's smile was sharp as her blazer. "Well, we should be prepared, just in case the market comes to us." That night, I added a new section to my leather journal. Preparatory phase, 67 days to get ready, 67 days to build the perfect alternative to everything Alluvia was destroying. 67 days to create something so compelling that when I finally reached out, it wouldn't feel like solicitation. It would feel like rescue. I closed the journal and poured myself a glass of wine. Outside my home office window, Charlotte's skyline glittered with promise. Somewhere in those lights, Marcus UN was probably running another efficiency model, finding another relationship to optimize away. Let him. Every cut he made was another seed I'd harvest. Every innovation was another reason for clients to seek what they'd lost. The garden was planted. Now I just had to tend it carefully, patiently, until the season was right. 67 days. I could be very patient for 67 days. Day 68, 9:23 a.m. I sat at my desk at Horizon, fingers hovering over my keyboard, savoring the moment like a sommelier with a perfect vintage. The non-solicit period had expired at midnight. I was free. But I didn't start with a sales pitch. That would be crass, obvious, expected. Instead, I opened my personal email and began typing. Subject: thinking of you on a tough anniversary. Billy. I know today marks 5 years since Lily's diagnosis. I remember because you told me once that April 15th stopped being about taxes and became about the day everything changed. I hope you're being gentle with yourself. No agenda here, just wanted you to know someone remembers. Warmth and light, Natalie. Send. Next email. Jennifer Martinez at Meridian. Subject: saw the announcement. Jennifer. Just caught the news about the twins making honor roll. You must be so proud. I remember when you were worried about the divorce affecting their grades. Look at them now, proof that kids see strength even when we don't feel strong. Celebrating your wins from afar, Natalie. Send. For 3 hours, I wrote, not a single mention of Horizon, not a whisper of business, just human to human. the way it had always been, the way Aluvia had forgotten it could be. The responses started within minutes. Billy, I can't believe you remembered. It's been a hell of a morning. My new account manager scheduled a QBR for today. When I told him why I needed to reschedule, he asked if we could just do it over Zoom instead. Jennifer. Natalie. Where have you been? The kids are doing amazing, though I can't say the same for our vendor management. Did you know Aluvia tried to auto-renew our contract with an 8% increase? No discussion, just an automated notice. By lunch, my inbox was flooded, not just responses, but forwarded emails, screenshots, horror stories. My former clients were sharing their Aluvia experiences like survivors comparing scars. Tom at Apex. They assigned us to someone named Bradley who keeps calling me Thomas and scheduling meetings during my grief support group. The Quantum Logistics team. They sent BBQ catering to our last meeting. When we reminded them we're vegetarian, they said we should have updated our dietary preferences in their new client portal. David at Sterling. I mentioned my brother's anniversary to our new rep. He tried to upsell me on their employee wellness platform. I wanted to punch him through the screen. I documented everything in my journal, evidence of what happened when efficiency replaced empathy, but I still didn't pitch, not yet. Instead, I sent a second round of emails. I hear you. I'm sorry you're experiencing that. You deserve better. If you ever want to talk about what better might look like, I'm here. No pressure, just possibilities. That phrase, no pressure, just possibilities, became my signature. It was everything Aluvia wasn't. Patient where they were pushy, personal where they were automated, present where they were absent. The first call came at 3:47 p.m. Billy, who couldn't wait anymore. Natalie, I need to know where you are. Please tell me you're somewhere I can send my business. I'm at Horizon Strategies, I said simply, building something different, something that remembers businesses are made of people. Send me a proposal. Actually, don't. Send me a contract. Whatever you're building, Harbinger wants in. Billy, I should tell you about our services, our pricing. I don't care. I trust you. That's worth more than any service level agreement. By 5 p.m., I had 7 similar calls, each one unprompted, unsolicited, initiated entirely by the client. My phone rang so consistently that Dana wandered over to my desk. Either you're running a parallel business, or something interesting is happening. I turned my screen toward her. Email after email, each one a variation on the same theme. Where are you? How do we follow? When can we switch? Dana's eyes widened. How many? 17 so far, and it's only day 1. She sat on the edge of my desk, professional composure cracking to show genuine awe. They're just coming to you. They're not coming to me, I corrected. They're running from Aluvia. There's a difference. That night, I updated my journal. 17 conversations, 12 explicit requests for proposals, 6 demands for immediate contracts, 27 million in potential revenue, walking away from Aluvia not because I'd sold them anything, but because Marcus UN had sold them nothing. He'd replaced relationship with efficiency, connection with automation, care with algorithms, and in doing so, he'd created the perfect conditions for an exodus. I hadn't stolen anything. I'd simply been myself, the same self Aluvia had declared didn't fit their culture. Turns out, I fit my client's culture just fine. The last email of the day was from someone unexpected, Deborah from HR, sent from her personal Gmail. Natalie, I wanted to say I'm sorry for how things happened. Also, you should know Marcus is panicking. Harbinger Industries just sent their non-renewal notice. He's calling it a targeted attack. Legal is involved. Be careful. I smiled at my screen. Careful. I'd been careful for 67 days. Now I was just being myself. And apparently, that was the most dangerous thing I could be. The packages went out on a Thursday, 52 of them. Time to arrive on Friday morning when executives were fresh, coffee in hand, ready to be delighted. I'd spent 2 weeks crafting them. Not marketing materials, Horizon had plenty of those. These were something else entirely. Personal manifestos disguised as business correspondence. Each package was unique, hand-selected stationery that matched the recipient's style. For Jennifer Martinez, crisp legal pad yellow, she'd once told me she did her best thinking on legal pads. For Billy, Classic cream cardstock, the same shade as the sympathy card I'd sent 5 years ago. For the quantum logistics team, recycled paper embedded with wildflower seeds, plantable, sustainable, aligned with their values. The letters began with handwriting, not my assistant's, not a fancy font designed to look personal, my actual hand, holding an actual pen, writing their actual names. Dear Billy, 5 years ago, you trusted me with the story of Lily, not because I was your vendor, but because I was human first, account manager second. That trust built something beyond contracts. It built understanding. Today, I want to share what we're building at Horizon. Each letter transitioned from handwritten to typed, but never to templated. I referenced specific moments, private jokes, shared challenges. The time Jennifer had her meltdown about the twins' school situation during a contract review, and we'd spent an hour looking at private school options instead of pricing tiers. The afternoon David and I sat in silence after his brother's funeral, reviewing absolutely nothing, just being present. Inside each package, beyond the letter, was a small gift, nothing expensive that would be bribery, just thoughtful, a donation card to St. Jude's for Billy, a gift certificate for a massage for Jennifer, a packet of heirloom tomato seeds for Quantum's rooftop garden. And then, almost as an afterthought, a single page about Horizon. Not what we did, everyone knew what B2B software companies did, but how we did it. Our promise to never automate relationships. Our commitment to seeing clients as humans with businesses, not businesses staffed by humans. Our radical belief that inefficiency in service of connection was actually the highest efficiency of all. The final touch was the signature line. Not Director of Client Partnerships, or any title at all. Just, here when you need me, Natalie. I sent them via courier, not mail, each one hand-delivered, signature required. The courier company thought I was insane. 52 packages to 52 different addresses, all to arrive between 8 and 10 a.m. on the same Friday. The overtime charges alone were astronomical. Dana approved the expense without blinking. Consider it a marketing campaign with perfect targeting. Friday morning, I arrived at the office early, 7:30 a.m., coffee in hand, journal open to a fresh page. I titled it Reception Day and waited. 8:17 a.m. First text, Jennifer. Just opened your package, crying at my desk. Thank you for seeing me. 8:23 a.m. Email from Quantum's CEO. The seeds were perfect. We're planting them today. Also, we need to talk about our Alluvia contract. 8:31 a.m. Phone call. Billy, his voice thick. The donation card. Lily would have loved that. When can we meet? They rolled in all morning. Texts, calls, emails, LinkedIn messages, but also photos. Jennifer's massage certificate already booked for that evening. Quantum's entire team on the roof, planting seeds in their garden. Billy's donation receipt, he'd matched my donation and added 3 zeros. But the most interesting responses came from people who weren't supposed to be moved by sentiment. The CFOs who mentioned the handwritten portion demonstrated attention to detail. The procurement managers who noted the package timing showed logistical competence. The CEOs who appreciated that I'd invested in understanding their organizational culture. They were translating emotion into business speak, giving themselves permission to care. By noon, Dana was fielding calls from our sales team. What did Natalie do? We have 17 inbound requests for proposals. No, not leads, full RFPs, already written, just asking for our response. I showed her my journal, 23 direct responses, 19 meeting requests, 12 explicit mentions of leaving Alluvia, 1 marriage proposal from Quantum's head of sustainability, who was kidding mostly. This isn't scalable, Dana said, but she was smiling. You can't handwrite letters to every prospect. I'm not trying to get every prospect, I'm trying to get the right ones, the ones who understand that business is personal, whether we admit it or not. My phone buzzed. Another text, this one from a number I didn't recognize. Ms. Harper, this is Marcus Yuen's assistant. He's requested an urgent meeting with you. Are you available Monday at 2 p.m.? I screenshot the message and texted Patricia, my lawyer. Her response was immediate. Absolutely not. All communication through counsel. They're scared. I turned back to Dana. Aluvia wants to meet, urgently. Her smile sharpened. Of course they do. You just took 17 years of relationship building and turned it into a competitive advantage. They thought they were firing an employee. They fired their immune system instead. That afternoon, I drafted my response to the meeting request. Professional, polite, brief. I appreciate Mr. UN reaching out. All communication regarding my former employment should be directed to my attorney, Patricia Stern. I wish Aluvia continued success with their new cultural direction. I didn't sign it Director of Client Partnerships. I signed it the way I'd signed 52 letters that morning. Here when you need me, Natalie. The irony wasn't lost on me. They'd needed me for 15 years. They just hadn't known it until I was gone. The implosion started slowly, like cracks in a dam. You might not notice at first, but once the structure begins to fail, the collapse is inevitable. Week 1 after the packages. 3 client non-renewals hit. Aluvia, Harbinger Industries, Meridian Tech, and a smaller firm I'd barely touched. The smaller firm was the interesting one. I hadn't sent them a package, hadn't reached out at all, but their CEO Golf partnered with Billy, and word traveled. Week 2. Aluvia's all-hands meeting notes leaked to TechCrunch. Some brave soul, probably heading for the exits themselves, had recorded Marcus Yuen's panic manifesto. We're under targeted attack, he'd said. A disgruntled former employee is attempting to sabotage our client relationships, but relationships built on professionalism cannot be destroyed by personal manipulation. The comment section was brutal. Maybe if you hadn't fired the person who built those relationships. This is what happens when MBAs run relationship businesses. Anyone know where Natalie Harper went asking for my company? Week 3. The Slack implosion. Screenshots started circulating on LinkedIn, Aluvia's internal channels in full meltdown mode. Anyone have the old quantum logistics preferences? They're threatening to leave over the catering thing. Who knows why Apex Systems wants meetings rescheduled? Something about Tuesdays. Urgent. Sterling Systems says we missed some important anniversary. Anyone know what they're talking about? Just got screamed at by a client for calling him Thomas. Apparently it's Tom. How were we supposed to know? I sat in my Horizon office, watching it unfold like a master chess player who'd already seen 20 moves ahead. My phone buzzed constantly, former colleagues, industry contacts, even current Aluvia employees reaching out on the down low. The most interesting message came from Bradley, the fresh MBA who'd replaced me. He connected on LinkedIn with a desperate note. Ms. Harper, I know you have no reason to help me, but I'm drowning. These clients expect me to know things that aren't in any database. Would you consider a consulting arrangement? I'll pay personally if needed. I stared at that message for a long time. This kid and he was a kid. Maybe 26 was collateral damage in Marcus's efficiency war. He'd been hired to fill a role that couldn't be filled, set up to fail by people who didn't understand what they'd destroyed. I wrote back carefully. Bradley, I can't consult on Aluvia accounts, but I'll give you free advice. You can't learn 15 years of relationships from a database. These aren't accounts. They're people. Start there. He responded immediately, but how do I learn what matters to them? You ask, you listen, you remember. There's no hack for caring. Meanwhile, my days at Horizon were a delightful contrast. 17 of my 52 packages had converted to signed contracts. Another 12 were in final negotiations. Revenue projections for my division were exceeding Dana's wildest optimism. But more importantly, I was building something sustainable, training a team to think relationships first, creating systems that captured humanity, not just data, proving that inefficiency in service of connection was actually the most efficient.